The burial. The harvest moon ceremony. The autumn moon hung heavy over the Moonstone Pack territory like a glowing coin pressed against black velvet. Maya Rivers stood at the edge of the ceremonial clearing, her fingers stained purple from crushing healing herbs all afternoon. At 23, she had accepted her place in the pack. She was the healer's daughter, the quiet girl who mended broken bones and delivered babies in the middle of the night. She wasn't meant for grand destinies or fairy tale endings. Tonight was the harvest moon ceremony, where unmated wolves came together hoping to find their destined partners. Maya attended every year, not because she expected to find her mate, but because someone always drank too much moonberry wine and needed a healer before dawn. She wore a simple cream dress that her mother had sewn before she died 5 years ago. Around her, she-wolves paraded in silk and jewels, their laughter sharp as broken glass. They didn't speak to Maya. They never had. Being the daughter of a healer meant you were useful, not equal. The drums started beating, deep and primal, matching the rhythm of wolf hearts. Alpha Daemon Steel emerged from the pack house, and every unmated female held her breath. He was magnificent in the way dangerous things often are. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and eyes the color of a storm about to break. At 28, he had led the Moonstone Pack for 3 years with an iron fist wrapped in velvet diplomacy. Beside him walked Victoria Cross, the council elder's daughter. She wore crimson silk that cost more than Maya's cottage, her black hair pulled back to show off a face that could launch ships or sink them. Everyone knew Victoria and Daemon would announce their chosen partnership tonight. It made political sense. Her family had money and influence. He had power and bloodline. Love was optional in alpha pairings. Maya turned to leave. She had peppermint tea waiting at home and a book about rare mountain flowers. But then Daemon's eyes found hers across the clearing. The world stopped. When lightning strikes. The mate bond hit Maya like a lightning strike to the chest. One moment she was standing. The next she was on her knees in the grass, clutching her heart as it tried to beat out of her ribcage. Her wolf, Aurora, howled in her mind with pure joy. Mate, mate, mate. Across the clearing, Daemon had frozen mid-step. His nostrils flared, his eyes going wide. She watched his chest heave as the bond slammed into him too. For 3 heartbeats, nothing existed except the golden thread now connecting their souls. Then Victoria's voice shattered the moment. Daemon? Darling, what's wrong? The crowd had gone silent. 200 wolves watched as their alpha stared at the healer's daughter like she had just appeared out of thin air. Maya struggled to her feet, her legs shaking. This couldn't be happening. Alphas didn't get fated to omegas. The moon goddess didn't make mistakes this cruel. Daemon's voice came out rough. His eyes were glowing, his wolf fighting for control. I need to. But he didn't finish. Victoria's perfectly manicured hand gripped his arm, her nails digging in deep enough to draw blood. She had felt it too. Maybe not the bond itself, but the shift in the air, the way her carefully laid plans were crumbling. Ladies and gentlemen, Victoria announced, her voice ringing false and bright. I think our alpha has had too much sun today. Let's give him some air. She practically dragged Daemon toward the pack house, but not before shooting Maya a look that promised murder. Maya ran. She ran through the forest until her lungs burned, until Aurora stopped howling, until she reached her small cottage on the edge of pack lands. She locked the door, slid down against it, and cried. Because she knew how this story ended. Girls like her didn't get happy endings with alphas. They got heartbreak and exile. She was right, just not in the way she expected. The frame. 3 days passed. 3 days of Daemon avoiding her, of Victoria's eyes following her everywhere, of whispers spreading through the pack like poison. On the 4th day, Maya woke to pounding on her door. Open up. Pack enforcement. She stumbled out of bed, still in her nightgown, and opened the door. 5 warriors stood there, led by Beta Marcus, a man she had helped heal when his son broke his arm. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Maya Rivers, you're under arrest for theft of sacred artifacts. What? I haven't stolen anything. They pushed past her, tearing through her cottage. Her herbs were thrown to the floor, her mother's quilts ripped from the bed, furniture overturned. In her kitchen, beneath the floorboards she didn't know opened, a warrior found a leather bag. Inside were 3 moonstones, each the size of a fist, glowing with ancient power. They belonged to the Pax temple, used in sacred ceremonies for centuries. Taking them was a crime punishable by death. No, Maya whispered, backing away. I didn't put those there. I've never even been in the temple vault. Save it for the trial, Marcus said. He looked almost sad as he bound her wrists with silver chains that burned her skin. As they dragged her through the pack lands toward the Great Hall, pack members came out of their homes to watch. Some looked shocked. Others looked satisfied. At the Great Hall entrance, Victoria stood waiting. She wore white today, like a grieving angel. When Maya was pulled past her, Victoria leaned in close enough that only Maya could hear. You should have stayed in your place, little healer. Alphas aren't meant for girls who smell like dirt and herbs. The trial of lies. The Great Hall had been transformed into a courtroom. The 5 council elders sat in high-backed chairs at the head table. Alpha Damon sat beside them, his face carved from stone. He still hadn't looked at her. Not once since the bond snapped into place. Maya stood in the center of the room, silver chains weighing down her wrists and ankles. The entire pack had crammed inside to watch. Public trials were rare and entertaining. Elder Cross, Victoria's father, banged his gavel. Maya Rivers, you stand accused of stealing sacred moonstones from the temple vault. How do you plead? Not guilty. Maya's voice echoed. I've never been inside the vault. I don't even have access. Yet the stones were found in your home. Elder Cross gestured, and a warrior brought forward the leather bag. The moonstones inside pulsed with eerie light. These artifacts are marked with identification runes. They match the 3 stones reported missing last week. Someone planted them. I'm being framed. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Who would bother framing a nobody healer? Victoria stood, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. She was a masterclass in false emotion. I hate to add to these charges, but I must speak my truth. Her voice broke perfectly. Last week, I caught Maya sneaking near the temple after midnight. When I questioned her, she ran away. I thought nothing of it at the time, but now. Liar, Maya screamed. I was home last week. I was treating Old Man Garrett for pneumonia every night. Old Man Garrett passed away 2 days ago, Elder Cross said coldly. How convenient that your alibi can't testify. No, this was wrong. This was all wrong. Maya's eyes found Damon. He sat rigid, his jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. The mate bond thrummed between them, begging him to defend her, to sense the truth. Alpha Damon, Maya called out, her voice desperate. Please, you know I wouldn't do this. The bond, you feel it. Tell them I'm innocent. The room went dead silent. Everyone knew about the mate bond now. It had been the gossip for days. Damon finally looked at her. His storm gray eyes were empty, cold. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of command. The evidence speaks for itself. My personal feelings are irrelevant to pack law. Those words shattered something inside Maya's chest. The bond didn't break. It simply went dark and hollow. He had chosen Victoria's lies over his mate's truth. He had chosen politics over love. The elders conferred in whispers. Elder Cross stood, his face grave but his eyes gleeful. Maya Rivers, this council finds you guilty of theft of sacred artifacts. The punishment for this crime, as written in our ancient laws, is burial. Gasps filled the hall. That law was centuries old, from a time when pacts were brutal and mercy was weakness. No, Maya struggled against her chains. You can't. That law hasn't been used in 200 years. It remains valid, Elder Cross declared. You will be taken to the Forbidden Grounds at midnight tonight and buried alive. May the moon goddess have mercy on your soul. Maya's legs gave out. Warriors caught her before she hit the floor. As they dragged her toward the dungeons beneath the hall, she screamed for Damon. She screamed his name until her voice broke. He never looked back. Buried alive. Midnight came too quickly. They brought Maya to the Forbidden Grounds in chains, loaded in a wagon like livestock. The Forbidden Grounds were a cursed place where the pack buried rogues and traitors. Nothing grew there. Even the moonlight seemed dimmer. 20 pack members had come to witness the burial, as tradition demanded. Victoria stood at the front, wrapped in furs, watching with satisfied eyes. Damon hadn't come. The mate bond told Maya he was far away, probably drowning himself in whiskey to numb the pain of what he was allowing. The warriors had already dug the grave. 6 feet deep, perfectly rectangular. Next to it sat a simple wooden coffin, lined with white silk that mocked the purity Maya was accused of lacking. Beta Marcus approached her, removing her chains. For a moment, she thought about running. Her wolf, Aurora, begged her to shift and flee. But silver bullets were faster than wolves, and the warriors had their guns ready. "I'm sorry, Maya," Marcus whispered. "For what it's worth, I don't believe you did it." "Then stop this," she pleaded. He shook his head. "Orders are orders." They made her climb into the coffin on her own. She stood inside it, looking up at the night sky one last time. The harvest moon was waning now, a crooked smile mocking her fate. "Any last words?" Elder Cross asked. Maya looked at each face surrounding her grave. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked eager. She found Victoria's eyes and held them. "The truth always comes to light," Maya said clearly. "And when it does, you'll all remember that you buried an innocent woman alive." Victoria's smile never wavered. They made Maya lie down. The moment her back touched the white silk, panic exploded in her chest. She tried to sit up, but warriors held the coffin lid. The last thing she saw before darkness swallowed her was the full moon, cut into slices by the wooden slats. Then the lid closed. The sound of nails being hammered in was deafening inside the coffin. Maya screamed, pounding against the wood until her knuckles split. But the hammering continued until the lid was sealed tight. She heard muffled voices outside. Then came the sound she'd been dreading, dirt hitting the coffin lid. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of earth burying her alive. The air inside the coffin grew thick and hot. Maya's breathing came in short gasps. How long did she have? An hour? 2. Aurora howled in her mind, a mournful sound that tore at Maya's sanity. The mate bond pulsed weakly. Somewhere far away, Damon felt her dying. She hoped it destroyed him. Maya didn't know how long she lay there in the darkness, feeling her life drain away. Eventually, her screams turned to whispers. Her whispers turned to silence. The darkness pressed in from all sides, and she finally understood what true helplessness felt like. Her last thought before consciousness faded wasn't of Damon or revenge. It was of her mother, and the hope that death would let them reunite. But death wasn't ready for Maya Rivers yet. The Rogue King. Cade Blackthorn had ruled the Shadow Rogue Pack for 7 years, and in that time, he had learned to trust his instincts. Tonight, his instincts were screaming. His wolf, Fong, had been restless for 3 days, pulling him north toward the Moonstone Pack territory. Cade had tried to ignore it, busy with the usual rogue business of surviving in the territories no pack wanted. But tonight, Fong had taken over completely, forcing a shift and dragging Cade across the border into forbidden territory. "This is insanity," growled Riker, Cade's beta, as they approached the forbidden grounds. "If Moonstone's patrols catch us here, it'll start a war." "Then stay quiet," Cade replied. He was a massive man, even in human form, standing 6'5" with black hair. He kept tied back, and eyes so dark they looked black in dim light. Scars covered his arms from a lifetime of fighting. He had been called the Rogue King since he was 21, when he'd unified 12 scattered rogue packs under his leadership. Most alphas feared him. The smart ones left him alone. But tonight, he wasn't being smart. He was following the desperate howling in his head. They reached the forbidden grounds just after 2 a.m. The place reeked of death and dark magic. Cade's nose wrinkled at the smell of recently disturbed earth. Someone had been digging here tonight. Then he caught it. Underneath the smell of soil and decay, the faintest scent of lavender and honey. It was the sweetest thing he'd ever smelled, and it was fading. There, Cade pointed to a fresh grave, the dirt still loose and mounded. He didn't wait for permission. He fell to his knees and started digging with his bare hands, throwing dirt aside like a man possessed. "Cade, what are you doing?" Riker demanded. "That's a sealed grave. There's someone alive down here." Cade roared. His claws extended, ripping through earth faster. 3 feet down. 4 feet. 5. The scent was stronger now, but so was the smell of suffocation and dying hope. At 6 feet, his claws hit wood. Cade cleared the dirt from the top of the coffin, found the edge, and pried the lid open. The nails shrieked as they tore free. Inside lay a young woman in a dirt-stained cream dress. Her lips were blue, her skin pale as death. She wasn't breathing. "No," Cade breathed. He reached down, placed 2 fingers against her throat. For a terrible moment, there was nothing. Then, the faintest flutter of a pulse, so weak it was almost gone. Cade lifted her from the coffin, cradling her against his chest as he climbed out of the grave. Riker's eyes went wide. Is she? Barely. Cade turned her over, struck her back hard between the shoulder blades. Once. Twice. On the third hit, she gasped, her body convulsing as her lungs remembered how to breathe. Dirt and saliva came up, and then she was coughing, desperate heaving breaths that were the most beautiful sound Cade had ever heard. Her eyes fluttered open. They were the color of amber, glowing faintly in the darkness. She looked up at Cade with confusion and terror, trying to focus. Am I dead? She whispered. No, Cade said, smoothing dirt-matted hair from her face. You're alive. I've got you. Then her eyes rolled back, and she went limp in his arms. But her chest still rose and fell. She was breathing. She was alive. Cade looked at Riker. Get the car. We're taking her to the fortress. Cade, we don't know who she is or why she was buried. This could be a trap. Does she look like a trap? Cade snapped. He stood, holding the unconscious woman like she weighed nothing. The mate bond was humming to life in his chest, warm and golden and right. He didn't know how it was possible. He didn't care. She's mine, Cade said simply. And someone tried to kill her. When she wakes up, we're going to find out who. And then we're going to make them pay. He looked down at the woman in his arms, at her dirt-streaked face and broken fingernails from clawing at the coffin lid. She had fought to survive. She was a fighter. What's your name, little warrior? He murmured. She couldn't answer, lost in unconsciousness. But Cade made her a silent promise as he carried her away from her grave. Whoever had done this to her, whoever had buried her alive and left her to die, they had just made an enemy of the Rogue King. And Cade Blackthorne never forgot his enemies. Maya woke to softness. That was the first shock. After dirt and wood and suffocating darkness, her body sank into something impossibly soft. Silk sheets. A feather mattress. The scent of clean linen and cedarwood. She kept her eyes closed, afraid that opening them would shatter the dream and return her to the coffin. Her chest ached with each breath, her throat raw from screaming. Every muscle felt like it had been beaten with hammers. I know you're awake, a deep voice said from somewhere nearby. Your heartbeat changed. Maya's eyes snapped open. She was in a bedroom that belonged in a palace. Stone walls were covered with rich tapestries. A fire crackled in a massive fireplace. Through tall windows, she could see mountains covered in pine forests, peaks disappearing into clouds. Sitting in an armchair by the fire was the man from the grave. In daylight, he was even more intimidating. Massive shoulders, arms crossed over a broad chest, dark eyes watching her with an intensity that made her want to hide under the blankets. Where am I? Maya's voice came out as a croak. Shadow Mountain Fortress. My home. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. I'm Cade Blackthorne, leader of the Shadow Rogue Pack. The Rogue King. Stories about him were whispered around campfires. They said he was ruthless, that he killed alphas who challenged him, that his pack was filled with the most dangerous wolves in the territories. Why did you save me? Maya whispered. Cade's expression softened slightly. Because my wolf wouldn't let me leave you there. Because no one deserves to be buried alive. He paused. And because the moment I touched you, I felt it. The mate bond. Maya's breath caught. No, not again. She couldn't survive another mate bond, another rejection. Her hand went to her chest, feeling for the connection. It was there, faint but real, a golden thread connecting her to this dangerous stranger. But there was another thread too, dark and hollow, leading back to Damon. The bond hadn't broken when he rejected her. It had just gone cold. You have another mate, Cade said, his voice carefully neutral. I can sense it. The bond is damaged, but it's still there. He let them bury me, Maya said flatly. He chose his political marriage over my life. That bond is dead, even if it hasn't snapped yet. Cade nodded slowly. Then we have time to talk. You've been unconscious for 3 days. My healer says you'll recover fully, but you came very close to dying. He stood, his height making the large room feel smaller. When you're ready, I want to know everything. Who you are, why they buried you, and who I need to kill to make this right. The last words were said with such casual violence that Maya shivered. But it wasn't fear. It was something darker, something that had been born in the suffocating darkness of that coffin. The desire for revenge. Victoria Cross and Alpha Damon Steele of Moonstone Pack, Maya said, her voice stronger now. They framed me for theft. Victoria planted sacred moonstones in my home, then testified against me at trial. Damon. Her voice broke. Damon refused to defend me, even knowing I was his fated mate. Cade's eyes flashed black, his wolf rising to the surface. They will answer for this. I want to be there when they do, Maya said, pushing herself up to sit. The movement made her dizzy, but she fought through it. I don't want you to fight my battles for me. I want to fight them myself. A slow smile spread across Cade's face. It was a dangerous smile, full of dark promise. Then we'll train you. When you go back to Moonstone Pack, you won't be returning as the helpless girl they buried. You'll be returning as something they should fear. The truth about Cade. Over the next week, Maya recovered her strength. Cade's fortress was impressive, carved into the mountainside with a mix of modern luxury and ancient stone. His pack numbered over 300, all rogues who had been exiled or rejected by traditional packs. Maya learned that Cade wasn't born rogue. He had been the heir to the Blood Moon Pack, one of the most powerful packs in the Northern Territories. 10 years ago, his beta and closest friend had framed him for murdering his own father to seize power early. The pack had believed the lies, and Cade had been stripped of his title and exiled. He had built his own kingdom from nothing, becoming more powerful as a rogue than he ever would have been as a traditional alpha. I understand what it's like, Cade told her one evening as they sat by the fire in his study. To be betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect you. To have everything taken based on lies. Maya looked at him across the chessboard between them. They had fallen into an easy routine over the past week. Breakfast together, then she would rest while he handled pack business. Evenings spent talking or playing games. The mate bond had grown stronger each day, but Cade never pushed. He gave her space to heal. Did you ever get revenge? Maya asked. Not yet, but I will. Cade moved his knight, capturing her bishop. The beta who framed me, his name is Connor Marsh. He's been ruling Blood Moon Pack for 10 years now, running it into the ground with his greed and cruelty. When the time is right, I'll return and take back what's mine. Why wait? Because revenge is like a fine wine, Cade said, his dark eyes meeting hers. It's better when you let it age. When you plan carefully. When you strike at the perfect moment so your enemy doesn't see it coming. He leaned back in his chair. Plus, I've been building something better here. A pack based on loyalty instead of bloodline. On merit instead of birth. When I destroy Connor, I want him to see what I've built without him. Maya understood. She moved her queen, putting his king in check. Teach me to do the same. Teach me to be strong enough to face them. Cade smiled, moving his king to safety. Training starts tomorrow at dawn. Fair warning, I won't go easy on you just because you're my mate. Good, Maya said. I don't want easy. I want to be dangerous. The training. Cade wasn't lying. Training was brutal. He woke her at 5 every morning, before the sun rose over the mountains. They started with running, miles through the forest trails in wolf form. Aurora, Maya's wolf, had been weak from the trauma of the burial. But day by day, she grew stronger, faster, her silver fur gleaming in the dawn light. After running came combat training. Cade taught her to fight in both human and wolf form. How to use an opponent's size against them. Where to strike to cause maximum damage. How to sense an attack before it came. Maya had never been a fighter. She had been a healer, taught to mend wounds, not cause them. The first week, she spent more time on her back in the dirt than on her feet. Again, Cade would say, offering his hand to pull her up. You're thinking too much. Let your instincts guide you. But Maya's instincts said run, hide, submit. They were the instincts of an Omega, bred into her bloodline over generations. 2 weeks into training, Maya broke down. Cade had easily pinned her again, his weight pressing her into the training mat. The position triggered something in her, a memory of being helpless, of dirt pressing down on the coffin lid. She couldn't breathe. Panic attack. She thrashed, screaming, clawing at Cade to get off. He immediately rolled away, giving her space. Maya breathed. You're safe. You're not in the grave. But she was, in her mind. She was back in the coffin, suffocating, dying. Aurora howled in terror. Cade shifted tactics. He sat on the mat a few feet away and started talking, his voice low and calm. I'm going to tell you a secret, Maya. About the night I was exiled from Blood Moon Pack. His voice cut through the panic. Maya focused on it, using it to anchor herself. They didn't just exile me, Cade continued. Connor and his followers, they beat me nearly to death first. Broke my ribs, my jaw, my left arm. They wanted to make sure I couldn't fight back when they dumped me at the border. I was 23 years old, and I truly believed I was going to die alone in the woods. Maya's breathing slowed. She looked at him through tears. But I didn't die, Cade said. I crawled for 3 miles until I found a stream. I set my own broken bones. I hunted rabbits with my teeth because I couldn't use my arms. And I survived. Do you know why? Maya shook her head. Because I got angry. Not scared. Angry. Cade's eyes glowed. Fear makes you weak, Maya. It makes you curl up and wait for death. But anger? Anger makes you dangerous. So stop being afraid of what they did to you. Get angry about it instead. Something clicked inside Maya's chest. He was right. She had been carrying fear like a weight, letting it control her. But underneath the fear was rage. White-hot rage at Victoria for framing her. At Damon for abandoning her. At the pack for watching her get buried without saying a word. She stood up, wiping her eyes. Again, she said. Cade smiled. That's my girl. This time when they sparred, Maya didn't think about defense. She attacked. Her movements were rough, unpolished, but they were fierce. When Cade went to pin her, she twisted, using a move he'd taught her last week, and managed to flip him. It didn't last. He recovered quickly and still won the match. But for 3 seconds, the Rogue King had been on his back with Maya standing over him. Better, Cade said, pride in his voice. Much better. Discovering the bloodline. 1 month after her rescue, Maya was in the fortress library researching healing herbs when she found it. An old leather journal tucked behind some botanical texts. The pages were yellowed with age, the handwriting elegant and feminine. Property of Luna Catherine Silvermoon, the first page read. Year 1847. Silvermoon, Maya's mother's maiden name. With trembling hands, Maya opened the journal. It was a diary, written by a woman who had been the Luna of a pack called Silver Moon over 170 years ago. As Maya read, her eyes grew wider. The Silver Moon pack hadn't been ordinary. They had been an ancient bloodline with a unique gift. Silver Moon wolves could use alpha commands even if they weren't born alphas. They could break other alphas' commands. They could sense lies and truth with perfect accuracy. They had been powerful. Too powerful. Other packs had feared them, and fear led to war. The Silver Moon pack had been wiped out in a massacre, their bloodline supposedly ended. But the last entry in the journal told a different story. I am sending my daughter away tonight, Catherine had written. She is only 5 years old, but she carries the bloodline. I am changing her name to Vance, hiding her heritage. Perhaps she will live a quiet life, free from the curse of power. I only pray she forgives me for the secrets I've kept. Maya's mother had been named Sarah Vance. Her grandmother had been a Vance. The journal ended with Catherine's daughter's description. Dark hair, amber eyes, a birthmark like a crescent moon on her left shoulder blade. Maya reached back, touching the exact spot on her own shoulder where she had a birthmark. A crescent moon. She wasn't just a healer's daughter. She was the last living descendant of the Silver Moon bloodline. She ran to find Cade. He was in the training yard, working with some of his warriors. When he saw her face, he immediately dismissed them. What's wrong? I found this. She shoved the journal into his hands. Read the last entry. Cade read, his expression growing more serious with each line. When he finished, he looked at her with new understanding. Your Silver Moon bloodline. That means, I have alpha powers, Maya whispered. Or I should, but I've never been able to use them. I've always been weak, always been an omega. Because you never knew they existed, Cade said, excitement creeping into his voice. Powers like that, they have to be awakened. They have to be trained. He took her hands. Maya, do you understand what this means? If we can unlock your bloodline gifts, you won't just be strong enough to face Victoria and Damon. You'll be unstoppable. Hope and fear warred in Maya's chest. How do we unlock them? There's a ritual, Cade said slowly. An ancient one, used to awaken dormant alpha bloodlines. It's dangerous, painful, and there's no guarantee it will work. Maya thought about Victoria's smile as they nailed the coffin shut. She thought about Damon's cold eyes as he refused to defend her. She thought about the darkness and the suffocating terror and the certainty that she was going to die alone and forgotten. I'll do it, she said. Whatever it takes. The awakening ritual. The ritual took place 3 nights later, during the new moon when the veil between ancient magic and the present world was thinnest. Kate had brought an elder sage, an ancient wolf who was nearly 200 years old and still remembered the old ways. They gathered in a clearing deep in the mountains, far from the fortress. A circle of stones had been arranged, each one carved with runes that glowed silver in the darkness. In the center was a flat altar stone. The ritual will force your wolf to surface completely, Elder Sage explained, her voice like dried leaves rustling. Not just a shift, but a true merge. Your human consciousness and wolf consciousness will become one. If your bloodline is strong, the alpha gifts will manifest. If not, she didn't finish, but her meaning was clear. If not, Maya could lose herself completely, become a mindless wolf unable to shift back. I'm ready, Maya said. Cade pulled her aside before she entered the circle. You don't have to do this. You're already strong, Maya. You don't need alpha powers to be worthy of revenge. Maya cupped his face, feeling the mate bond pulse between them. Over the past month, she had fallen for this rough, dangerous man who made her laugh and pushed her to be stronger, who saw her not as a victim, but as a warrior in training. I'm not doing this for revenge, she said softly. I'm doing this for me. My whole life, people told me I was weak, insignificant, worthless. I need to know who I really am, what I'm really capable of. Cade kissed her then, fierce and claiming. Then go show them. And know that whatever happens, I'm here. Maya stepped into the circle. Elder Sage began to chant in the old language, words that hadn't been spoken in over a century. The runes on the stones blazed brighter, silver light rising up to form a dome over Maya. Pain hit her like lightning. Maya screamed, falling to her knees. It felt like her body was being torn apart from the inside. Aurora surged forward, but instead of a normal shift, something else happened. Maya's skin began to glow with silver light. Her eyes turned pure silver, bright as stars. She could feel Aurora not as a separate being in her mind, but as part of her, their consciousness merging into something new. Power flooded through her veins, raw and ancient and terrifying. She could feel every wolf in a 5-mile radius, sense their emotions, hear their heartbeats. She could feel the earth beneath her, the ancient magic running through the mountains, the strength of her bloodline awakening after generations of sleep. She threw her head back and howled, but it wasn't a normal wolf howl. It was a sound of pure alpha dominance, so powerful that every wolf in the fortress miles away dropped to their knees in instinctive submission. The silver light exploded outward, shattering the circle of stones. When it faded, Maya stood in the center of the clearing, her body transformed. She hadn't shifted to wolf form. She was still human, but silver light danced across her skin like living tattoos. Her eyes glowed bright silver. Her hair had gained silver streaks that shimmered like moonlight. Impossible, Elder Sage breathed, staring at her. You're not just alpha bloodline. You're silver moon royalty. The last true silver Luna. Maya looked at her hands, watching the power dance across her skin. She felt Aurora inside her, no longer separate, but perfectly merged. She felt strong, powerful, complete. She looked at Cade, who was staring at her with awe and something that looked like pride. How do you feel? He asked. Maya smiled, and it was a smile that would have made Victoria Cross's blood run cold. I feel ready, she said. Ready to go home and show them what they created when they buried me alive. She raised her hand, and without even trying, she used an alpha command for the first time in her life. Kneel, she said to Cade, testing her power. His eyes widened. The command hit him like a physical force, but instead of forcing him down, it asked. Her power was different from normal alpha commands. It didn't dominate. It invited. It gave him the choice. Cade knelt willingly, bowing his head to his mate, his queen. They wanted to bury the weak healer girl, Maya said softly, her silver eyes glowing in the darkness. But they dug up a queen instead. And queens don't forgive. They conquer. The new moon hung overhead, a dark circle against the stars, as Maya began planning her return to Moonstone Pack. Victoria and Damon had no idea what was coming, but they would learn soon enough. Revenge wasn't just coming. It was already here, dressed in silver light and carrying the weight of an ancient bloodline. 2 months after Maya's resurrection from the grave, winter settled over the wolf territories like a white blanket. The winter solstice gathering was the most important event of the year, where all regional packs came together to renew alliances, settle disputes, and celebrate the longest night. This year, Moonstone Pack had the honor of hosting. Alpha Daemon had spent a fortune transforming the pack house into a winter palace. Ice sculptures lined the entrance. Thousands of fairy lights twinkled in the trees. Inside the great hall, tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats, exotic fruits, and barrels of the finest wine. Victoria Cross moved through the crowd in a gown of midnight blue silk, diamonds dripping from her throat. She had everything she wanted now. Daemon had officially claimed her as his Luna 3 weeks ago in a ceremony that cost more than most wolves earned in a lifetime. The council had approved. The pack had celebrated. She was finally the alpha's mate, even if it wasn't the true mate bond. "Darling, you look stunning," said Elder Cross, her father, kissing her cheek. "This is your night. Enjoy it." Victoria smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Something had been bothering her for weeks. Daemon was distant, distracted. He still performed his alpha duties perfectly, but at night, she would wake to find him standing at the window, staring out at the forest with haunted eyes. He was thinking about her, about the dead healer girl,